said before, is that if they were a band, they could give you a great performance. But they're not a world tour band. They're just, LeBron's old and AD's older than his age, and they don't have a lot of dependable parts. But you could get one great night out of them. I think they match up pretty well with Denver. Don't think they'll beat them. Probably get beaten 5. What transpires, in your opinion, in that series?
Oh, Colin, I'm sitting here in Nick Wright's chair in New York City, so I feel like I should be infused with LeBron and Lakers optimism, but I'm just not right now. I mean, you look at the most recent history, a 4-game sweep in the conference finals last year. The Nuggets went 3-0 against the Lakers this season. Yes, the margin of victory in those games was very tight. The Lakers were not blown out in many of them. So you have some reason to believe they'll be competitive in this series. But I'm sure there's an argument to be made that catching the Nuggets early might be better for them than catching them late. But you could also make the argument that the Nuggets are not exactly sleepwalking into the postseason. They won 6 of their last 8 games, and despite some of the adversity that they faced during this regular season, they still finished in a statistical tie with Oklahoma City for the best record in a competitive Western Conference. So you really got to squint to look for the Lakers' pathway to victory. But I'll do it for you if you want. The pathway to victory is D'Angelo Russell playing out of his mind. D'Angelo Russell, after the All-Star break, averaged about 20 points per game, shot 41% from 3. Those are excellent numbers. You saw him down the stretch against the Pelicans last night making a key 3-pointer. They need the D'Angelo Russell that played the second half of this season, played in the play-in, has played in for a lot of his time with the Lakers, to show up in this series and not be the D'Angelo Russell that was virtually unplayable in that series against Denver. The Nuggets just played D'Angelo Russell right off the floor. And if he is that same player, this series is going to be over very quickly.
So let's go to the East. Miami and Philly play. Boston will be favored over both. But I would rather face Philly, even though I'd have to face Embiid. I don't want to face Spoelstra, Butler. I'd like to get out of that. There are these weird teams in sports that just rise, and they're just a pain. I don't want to face Spoelstra, Jimmy Bam. I don't want to. But as somebody that covers the Celtics, are either of those teams capable of pushing Boston and making them a little uncomfortable?
Yeah, I think Miami is the team the Celtics would most likely like to avoid, even though the Heat are probably a weaker version of the team we saw last year. They're still Miami. They're still brilliantly coached. They've still got a great closer in Jimmy Butler. And the Celtics, historically, at least over the last 10 years, have really played well against the 76ers. Al Horford plays really well against Joel Embiid. So that's probably the matchup that they would prefer in the first round. But any first-round matchup for the Celtics right now is a little bit concerning because the Celtics, they haven't played like a meaningful game since Ash Wednesday. I mean, they have been basically just sleepwalking through the last month and a half of the regular season. I was at the game last week against the Knicks, a meaningful game kind of for both teams. The Celtics suited up their starters. The Knicks suited up their best players. The Knicks just kicked the crap out of them. So the question of whether or not the Celtics are going to be sharp, having another week off, having not played meaningful games in a while, going up against a potentially sharp or focused Miami or Philadelphia team, that is a cause for concern early in that series. Watch that game 1 for the Boston Celtics. If they lose that game, there are going to be some alarm bells going off in Boston.
So sometimes this happens, Chris, where a story is better than a team. And I think that's the Knicks. Julius Randle gets hurt. More of the offense runs through Brunson, and he's terrific. He's the best quarterback in New York, including Aaron Rodgers and Daniel Jones. I love him outside of Ewing. I think he's my favorite, Knicks guy since maybe, I don't know, Allen Houston or Walt Frazier, whatever. But I think the story is better than reality. When he's off the floor, it's not a highly functional offense, and I think they're going to get doused in the first round. And then I think they're going to go big game hunting, Karl Anthony Towns, something like that. Give me your thoughts on the Knicks, the future, the now. There's not enough offense here to me to win a playoff series, is there?
I think there's enough offense to win a first-round series? Is there enough offense to beat a Milwaukee team in the second round? Is there enough offense to beat the Celtics in the conference finals? That's very much an open question. Look, I had many questions about the Knicks even before this Julius Randle injury, because the history of the Knicks stars in the near playoff past has not been very good. Julius Randle has been great during the regular season. The Knicks have made the playoffs. He has been categorically awful in the postseasons. Now, Jalen Brunson wasn't bad in the playoffs last year, but you look at the three-point numbers, he shot better than 40% in the regular season. He was around low 30s during the postseason. That's not going to get it done in a postseason series. So when you go up against teams that have good defensive players and good defensive coaches, and they're able to dig into one team with one really serious option, that's going to make a Knicks deep playoff run, I think, really problematic.
All right, you're an MVP voter. I would go Luka, Jokic, SGA, Jalen Brunson, maybe a 4. I don't know. But I could argue both. But I do think Luka really taking Kyrie to a place LeBron did where basketball trumps everything, I think it's substantial. Because I think if you look at LeBron, Kyrie in Boston, Kyrie in Brooklyn, Kyrie pre-LeBron in Cleveland, it's not the talent. It's, there's stuff. And I think Luka's solved it. And that to me, if there's a tiebreaker, I think that's substantial. What was your vote?
I like that normalizing Kyrie is kind of a criteria for winning MVP. Not that I necessarily disagree with it. I mean, it clearly works between Kyrie and Luka Doncic, but I use other criterias there, Carl. I mean, look, it was incredibly close between Jokic, Luka, and SGA, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got my MVP vote this year because, look, he took over and is the leader of the youngest team in the NBA and the youngest team to ever win the #1 overall seed. This was a player that last year was on a team that was a lottery team, takes them all the way to the #1 seed, put up the kind of statistics offensively that we have not seen since Michael Jordan's best seasons, since Steph Curry's MVP seasons. And one of the more important differentiators that I used for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is that he is a two-way player. He's top 10, top 12 in defensive win shares. You got to go a little bit further down to find Nikola Jokic and way further down to find Luka Doncic, who is not a better than average defensive player. So all three of these guys put up great numbers, but Shai's team success on a team that was nowhere last year, and the fact that I think he's the best two-way player of the bunch, that gave him a slight edge on my ballot.
I like it. How about that, J-Mac? I like that. Listen, it's close. It's inches. The argument, value is what are you doing? It's not a stat. If it's just scoring, Luka's going to win a lot. So Jokic, I would make this argument, Chris, that once you win the championship, it's different. You don't have that pressure. Luka still faces that, right? SGA faces that. So Jokic doesn't face that like impending pressure. Jason Tatum now faces real pressure. Bro, you got to get to the finals. This team is stacked. So the argument, if you make that argument, it comes down to Luka and SGA. Well, Luka has like a guy that was a hit a bucket at a finals guy in Kyrie. SGA's got Chet Holmgren. So, J-Mac, your reaction to that? That's interesting to me.
I just don't see how you can put SGA on Luka's level.
Well, as what?
Like you said, Chet Holmgren comes in and they improve by 15, 20 wins. Like Kyrie Irving was there last year. They're better because Luka is a better defensive player this year. I think Chris would probably agree.
Is SGA a good defense? Does defense matter at all? It does?
Yes, I would say defense matters, significantly. The Thunder, outside of rebounding, they're a near flawless team. And SGA is a big reason for that. I watched a lot of Oklahoma City games this year. SGA is often deployed on one of the better, if not the best, wing player on an opposing team. It helps. He's got Lou Dort there, who's a great defensive wing as well. But SGA oftentimes plays against top offensive players. He also gets to the free throw line an absurd amount. His clutch numbers are ridiculous. Look, This was the hardest MVP ballot I have filled out in about 15, 20 years of doing it, because all three guys you can make a compelling case for. But I think Shai, again, being the two-way player and having a team that, even by virtue of tiebreaker, was the #1 team in the Western Conference, I think that means something. I think winning matters, and SGA's team won at a high level this year.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. It's one of the better votes. A lot of international guys and a lot of great players. All of them certainly worthy of it. Chris Mannix, as always, good talking to you, my man.
You got it, Colin.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just one of those inches, not feet years. Like that SGA, when you really think about it, it's like I kind of had him third because it's like, is he as influential?